Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. This is CinemaTalk, the official podcast of RuleThirds.com, and today we have a slightly controversial subject. We're going to be discussing the phrase, the books do not matter. In other words, what is the place of the original literature that a movie's based off, if it's based off a book? Because, of course, the fans of the books will always complain about changes, and the people that didn't read the book, they don't care. We're going to discuss all of these different aspects. It's a very interesting topic. I've wanted to talk about it since we thought of the idea of doing a podcast. So let's get to it. My name is Sean.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
And the three of us, Sean, Mary, Lax, we're going to... Sean, Larry, Lax. We're going to head down to the lobby and hopefully get better at talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad.
Sean.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So, gentlemen, how are we all doing this fine evening? Good?
All right.
You know.
Yeah, we had some technical
troubles.
problems before recording. Hopefully we won't have any as we record. But anyway, let's get to the topic. But first, we have to do what was on the site. Since the last Cinema Talk, we've had an episode of The Greats from Larry on Robert Zemeckis, very prestigious director, of course. New recommendation domination from me, and my films are based off Neighbors, the comedy Seth Rogen, Zac Efron, so go check that out. And then by the time this podcast airs, I think the only thing that we'll have is a preview, finally, of the Interstellar trailer, which I'll be doing. Interstellar trailer just dropped on, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday evening. It went live with Godzilla. Anyway, that will be up on the site, so go watch those lovely videos, I'm sure. But I don't want to waste any time, because I'm really excited for this topic. Books, and how much they matter compared to a film that are based off... Okay, the lobby did not help, guys. The lobby did not help.
No.
What I'm trying to say is...
We usually go to the lobby to eat things, and eating things leads to not talking as well as if we weren't eating things.
Sean, we tried the linguistics exercise. I thought that you were doing so good.
I know, I'm sorry. So what I'm trying to say is, when a movie is adapted from a book, how much does the book matter? That's what we're going to discuss today. So before we really get into it, I want to discuss, I want to give everyone an idea of where we stand. So just a yes or no. Do I think that the books matter in adaptation? No. Larry?
Not really, no.
Max?
Nope.
Okay, well that was Cinema Talk for Rule Thirds. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Goodbye, everybody.
Next week.
Good night,
Okay,
everybody.
so yes, we are all in agreement that, and of course, when we say that the books don't matter, obviously they matter as in they are the original work. Obviously it matters. We're not trying to say that no book is good or worth reading. Of course not. That's of course not what we're saying. When we say that the books don't matter, it means that the movie can change really whatever it wants. That's kind of our philosophy. So we all agree. And so normally, it seems like that would be a boring discussion. We're all just agreeing. But now our job is to defend our positions to ourselves and to you, the viewer, in case you disagree. So where do we want to start, guys? We don't really have a game plan here.
Well,
let's see.
I'll start off with just an idea here, kind of working off what you said. I want to talk about I always find that whenever you're remaking a book, kind of as we were talking about last week with Based on a True Story, you're asking for fans to be like, oh, well, there was this one plot moment where you were like, it wasn't perfect and blah, blah, blah. I have tons of fans who are like that.
I like how you said I have so many of my fans.
I know tons of fans who are like that.
Yes.
Especially with series like Harry Potter, and even Divergent. Also, a couple of my friends were complaining to me about Divergent.
Larry, don't bring up Divergent.
Fine, sorry. That's the red flag. That's the red flag. It's almost
what's Sean's favorite movie? I think he'll go into a tizzy about how awesome it is if you bring it up.
Divergent is a trigger.
It's almost like talking about Christopher Nolan between Max and Sean.
That's a good trigger.
That's
a good kind of trigger.
Anyway, so I know a lot of people like that. And what I like to tell them, as far as my opinion goes, is I'm okay with making changes. Mm-hmm. Of course, you have to keep the normal plot structure intact. If you're going to make a movie about a book, you should at least have, if there's a main character who's in 90% of the book, you should probably use that main character.
Kind of. So that's something that we should definitely go into. Because, well, first I want to say really quickly that I find it funny. It's always the book fans
Yeah,
that are always like this. It's like, oh my god, Goblet of Fire is just the worst of the series because it's not like the book. Like I hear that all the time. And by that I mean
my friends. Actually,
my sister says that all the time.
I don't know.
She brings it up at dinner every single time we eat dinner. It's like, seriously.
She's getting there.
Even out of nowhere. We're just talking about the news, and she's like, Goblet of Fire is the worst because it doesn't folll the book.
Yeah, she does.
So how was your day? How was your day, sweetie? The Goblet of Fire movie is the worst thing ever.
See, now I feel bad because she's actually getting here tomorrow for a little bit. So now I feel bad. Anyway,
sorry, Sean's
not
sister.
to speak ill of my sister, but yeah, she's a good example of a Harry Potter book fan who does like the movies. You know, there are some fans that just ignore anything that's not the books, and that's even more annoying. But like Goblet of Fire always gets criticism from fans because it's not like the book. It's the most different, and honestly I think it's one of the stronger. Like I'd put it in the upper half. It has some really good moments behind it. But anyway, I like that it's always the book fans. Like we would never pull that. Like, are we ever playing a video game, like a licensed video game, where like that didn't happen?
Well, I
like
feel
is anyone playing Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
And when Kingpin shows up, we're like, what?
He's not in the movie.
Yeah, no, we never do that. Movie people don't do that.
Well, have you ever played the video game based on the original Hulk movie? That literally has nothing to do with the Hulk movie. Like, I'm talking about not the Incredible Hulk from 2003. That has nothing to do. Like,
I think the main reason, though, I think we have to kind of think about that those kind of games, they have the stigma of being bad already.
Yeah.
So, and book fans are like, some of them are a little naive in the way that they always hope that, like,
it'll be identical.
It'll be a good adaptation.
So, not like identical. Not even, doesn't even matter if it's a good adaptation.
Well, I do know some purists like that, but they're just like, I don't even know how to talk to them about movies
actually,
sometimes.
can I throw this into the ring for a minute? Can I
Sure.
throw this into the ring? Okay, so the books don't matter. I also want this to count for accuracy of comic book adaptations.
Yes,
a friend was telling me how he loved Amazing Spider-Man 2 because and one of the reasons he loved it was that it was like faithful to the comic books more than any other Spider-Man movie, and I thought it has no effect whatsoever.
Yeah, okay, that's a good
effect.
first topic. That brings up a good first thing to really quickly discuss. When people say, because I kind of hit on it, and now you, Max, brought it up even more so. When people say this was my favorite because it followed the source material closest.
It's not original or anything. It just says exactly what I want it to say, and that's why I like it.
Yep, pretty much exactly.
Sorry,
what
that's
you're
not really
saying.
aggressive. I'm not aggressive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hold on. I want to bring this out right now. I love it when superhero films don't go strictly by the comic. I never. Okay, blah, 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 blah. I never took that into consideration. In fact, that's why I love the MCU so much. Because the MCU takes risks and does new things with its characters. But as I said before, it's important to keep certain aspects grounded. Like, if I'm going to see a Captain America movie, I kind of want to see Captain America in it, And that goes along with other things too. Like, if a book's being adapted, the only changes that should be made are if it's going to be for the medium, for the sake of the medium. That's why that's where I draw the line. So like these Marvel movies and even DC movies with the Dark Knight trilogy, they change up their stories to make them more interesting for the medium they're portraying.
Sure.
That's fine with me. Like, if those changes are made.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. That kind of begs the question, though. How much do you actually have to keep the same? Has anyone... I mean, you guys... Have you heard of the short story? Actually, it might not be a short story. It might be a full book. Anyway, do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yes, that was what Blade Runner was based off, right?
Right. I have a friend, my roommate, who I will bring up multiple times in this podcast because he's a huge book reader, and we have a lot of discussions about this.
He's a bookworm. Yes, you nerd.
No, he expects to read 40 books this summer.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Good luck, dude, if you're listening.
No,
good
he does
luck,
it.
because you are doing something none of us could even attempt.
He doesn't need that. Max, keep your good luck. He's done it before. That's his average. It's
What?
scary. Yes.
What?
He just
This-
does.
Okay,
Anyway,
this
okay.
sucker must
I take
love
back
to
that
read.
bookworm comment. That's actually pretty damn impressive.
I know it is. It's very
This
impressive.
guy
Anyway,
must love to read. Damn.
yeah. Anyway, I forgot my main point. See, this is the problem with a live recording. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Loading. Loading.
Yeah.
Right,
Meanwhile, elevator music. Someone, come on.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay. Keep it up.
Wait, do you want me to do a specific song?
No. See, these are the moments why, these are the moments that really show why you should listen to this podcast. It's brilliant. It's professionalism and it's to the pointness. Anyway, he brought up,
There you go.
I seriously haven't remembered yet. What were we talking about right before?
How much longer should I keep going? I've been
I
on
don't
a lot
know.
of,
What were we
I've been on a
talking about
lot of
right before?
elevators. You were talking about how your friend was a huge bookworm. And
Right
you read,
before
like,
that,
40.
what was what led into? Okay, right.
The short story.
He read "Do Enter Jim with Electric Sheep." He saw Blade Runner in the same class. He was taking a sci-fi class until they read the book and then watched the movie. And I'm really happy to report that the teacher knew to do the director's cut to show in class, which was awesome.
Nice. Cool.
So they showed it, and he's like, "Yeah, it's nothing like it. I mean, Deckard's the same, but that's about it." So I can't speak from experience, but Blade Runner is my second favorite movie of all time. It's at number 2.
Right. Well,
And that's because it made its own thing. Like,
sure,
it
yeah, I
isn't-
can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so is there any reason to keep it at its core?
Well, see, here's the thing, though. That had at least one element. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
but
not
okay.
You're not going to make a. I mean, let's go another example. I'm not going to make a. I'm not going to make a Harry Potter movie and not have the star of it be Harry Potter. I mean, that would just be absurd.
This brings up an interesting point when it comes to the whole books don't matter thing. There's one movie that I can think of that actually sort of defied the badness of the books don't matter rule. Anybody else see World War Z?
Oh, I did. Boom.
The thing is, with that book, one of the things that got people really angry was that it didn't follow the book at all. It was just called World War Z, and it had the same sort of kind of premise. And that's just kind of weird. I know the books don't matter, but if you're not even going to make an attempt at adapting the book, why connect it to the book?
I think there is some, Larry, maybe this is what you're trying to say here, but how I'm seeing it, you have to kind of take advantage of what your source material is. So Blade Runner is not very similar to the story of the original, but the idea of replicants, the idea of the character, the whole world and setting, they did take. So World War Z, it doesn't follow the storyline at all, but they took the world, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Is that
for
kind
me.
of the requirement?
Yeah, I feel that if you're going to connect a book, if you're going to make an adaptation of a book, if you're going to base a movie off of a book, the least you have to do is take what you can fit. Take the aspects of the narrative that work for the medium.
Right. So that also... Well, go ahead.
I just really quickly wrap it up, because if they make one tiny story adjustment, I don't care. If that's
Right.
better for the narrative and the story, then fine, go ahead, do it.
Yeah. That kind of brings up the point. I am really absent-minded today. Yeah, what was that? Okay. Stop with the elevator music.
Oh, Sean, it's
I was not a
priceless.
great host to pick.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I picked myself. That's okay. I mean, I wanted to do this. So that kind of brings up the point, we're talking about, you got to you've got to grab what you fit from the medium. You have to take advantage of the source. Man, none of that is triggering what I was going to say. I was really
Okay,
hoping.
let me just say
you want
this.
me
Let
to
me just
go
say this
on?
to expand on this.
Okay.
The books don't matter. The source doesn't matter. I want to expand this.
Well, yeah,
it does,
definitely. When we say
just
books don't matter,
we
it's
say the
anything,
books don't matter, but
comic
we're really
books.
just talking about the source when it comes to any adaptation, comic book, TV adaptation, remake, anything.
Historical stuff.
That's different. 'cause
as long as it doesn't
that we
sell
talked
itself
about.
to be truthful. I mean,
Yeah, we
Right.
already talked about that. Hey,
yeah.
if
We talked about
anyone
that
is
in the previous
interested-
episode, which
Exactly,
you go check
so-
out on rulethirds.com right now.
Yes, the last cinema talk we did was based on a true story. Just what that means, what it should mean, what obligation the film has, based off real life, all that good stuff. So go check that out, definitely. This is kind of a spiritual successor to that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, but I've been wanting to do it for a lot longer.
I actually want to bring up an example. I'll bring up an example just to
Boom.
just
Go
to bring up this point. So I am a huge fan of the Percy Jackson series. In fact, I'm actually a huge fan of anything that Rick Riordan writes because he's a brilliant writer.
I read a lot of those books. They're good.
Yeah, I remember when the fifth one came out. I literally read it in a day and a half.
Nice.
I was down, right? So when the movie came out, I was like, "Oh boy, this is gonna be great." This was back before I was a huge when I became like a film critic. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for myself.
To be fair, I don't hate that movie.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. I'll get to that in a second. So, like, I was, like, fanboying out. Like, that was one of the only movies I'd ever fanboyed for, besides for, like, superhero stuff. So, I go to see the movie, and I am pissed off. Like, I walk out of the theater, like, I go on a huge... That was one of my first movie rants ever, where I ranted about how much the book didn't follow the events of the movie, and blah, 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 blah. And I was so pissed off. A couple years later... I get reminded of the movie, and I'm like, oh, I hate that movie. And my friend's like, why? And it's like, because it didn't follow the book. And he's like, do you know how stupid that sounds? And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. So I sat down, I rewatched the movie, and I actually thought it was decent. And I have to admit it now, the changes it makes, not every change it makes, but certain changes that it makes do work better as a film rather than a book. And I feel that was kind of the first time I really had the realization that it's okay if a director wants to change up the source material because...
Well, the writer.
The writer, director,
if
the director's
it varies who's in charge of that
exactly.
stuff.
In my opinion, the only situation in which it can work if you follow the source material really closely is if the author is, like, directly involved in its production. Like, with that's a different point, though. I don't want to...
Well, yeah, we can get to that. But, like, something I wanted to bring up earlier where it's all... people say it's my favorite because it followed the book, or it's my least favorite because this. I wanted to bring it up, but forgot. Yeah, that seems to be the theme of this episode. It's funny where like that. I don't see that as a defense at all. I don't see that as like a praise at all. Like, okay, I get that it followed the source material. Why is it good in the source material?
Well, I guess in a way that kind of connects to if you liked the series, the plot. In the book, and you like the characters it begs the question.
It's like, okay,
yeah, sure,
you can call Goblet of Fire the worst of the movies because it didn't follow the book. But now you have to explain to me why it should have followed the book. Right? You got to give you got to do side by side, and that's fair. Any storytelling medium you can put side by side, and to an extent at least say, here's why this one works better. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to admit right now, a lot of books are better than a lot of movies.
Indeed.
A lot of movies are a lot better than a lot of books. It just... What? No, not like adaptations, but just like in general.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so...
Well, I mean, okay, we're talking about two different mediums here, guys. I mean, I don't know if that's entirely fair.
No, we're just talking story. If you look at just narrative, it honestly doesn't matter that much what medium it is. I mean, like, definitely with what you can fit in and how you want to tell your story. Like, film, you have to make it very visual.
Right.
Books, you get to be in characters' heads, all that. So that was obviously different. But just compare narratives. So you say, okay, here's the narrative of the movie Goblet of Fire. Here's the narrative to the book. Explain to me why that works better. Why is it better? You're saying that it's better
because there's more stuff in it.
Right, but that's true for every book.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
that's why the argument is flawed, because you're literally saying it's better just because of it's different medium that you like more, not because it has like any sort of actual quality standpoint. It's just like you saying, "Oh, I like it because it just has more to offer."
Yeah, and that is kind of silly, like quantity over quality. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, I get that where it's like, oh, you get more in depth in the story. Yeah, but films can be super in depth. Like, it's not really a length problem. There are short films that have more in-depth characters than anything Michael Bay has ever done.
Let's not forget M. Night Shyamalan.
Well, see, that goes without saying. See, M. Night Shyamalan doesn't do, like, characters. He does, like, cardboard.
Yeah, he makes, like, full-size
actually wasn't in The Happening. Like, he just got a cutout from a promotional stand at Blockbuster and just put it in his... Yeah. Anyway, obligatory M. Night Shyamalan joke.
I want to bring up a specific point about the narrative. Which do we think has a bigger impact on the books on this argument? There are two different ways you can affect the narrative of being adapted to a book. One, you can take things out, or you can change things. And I feel, and some of my friends kind of have a bit of a differ on which one they think is more important.
Honestly,
to this
I
argument.
think people respond harsher to things being changed and
Right.
things being added because, like, how they put it, and I'll argue why this is just totally stupid in 1 second, but they'll say things like, but that's not what happened. You know? Like,
Right.
so I like how I did my obligatory M. Night Shyamalan joke, followed by obligatory Game of Thrones reference.
Yay!
So in Game of Thrones, recently there was this new storyline that didn't happen in the books. They needed it because this season is the second half of a book. It was necessary to fluff out some storylines, but it was a really interesting addition. And a lot of people online were like, I don't like this storyline. It's not what happens. That character never goes there. And I'm like, guys, come in close. It doesn't exist anyway. Whoa, revelation. Yeah,
Wow.
he never goes there. That place, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's not what really happened.
mean,
None
what-
of this really happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I know, right?
So I hate that argument because something did it first, that's what happened right there. Boom.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's turn this thing around then.
Ooh, okay.
Turn this thing around. So, if you saw Catching Fire,
Right.
I did.
you probably saw its ending.
Yes.
And
Oh,
I personally
boy.
thought the ending was absolute garbage. Not from a contextual standpoint, from a quality standpoint, based on multiple factors that I can explain in a paper that I will
But
write and
so
send to
well-
you if you ask me nicely.
It's
He sent it to
fine.
me, guys. He
But-
sent me his post about it, and I read the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
long.
Calm
long,
down. It's not that
But
bad of an
essentially,
ending.
what I thought the ending was terrible, and what my friends were telling me as I posted this to public because I'm stupid sometimes. Well, they got really mad and they argued that because that's how it was done in the book, the movie didn't do that wrong.
Yep.
Like,
that
it is
comes up.
exempt. Somehow the movie's ending is exempt from criticism because it follows the book exactly. No,
Yeah.
that just means the book has a shitty ending too, guys.
Right. So here's the thing. That's really disturbing when you think about it, because I think why I'm so militant against this whole mindset of the books are more important is because it instantly makes books better than film as a whole.
And that's
Right.
just not fair.
Right. So if you're saying, well, that's the way it's in the book. Oh, so the books are perfect. Mwah. Books cannot be wrong. Nothing can go wrong.
Mwah.
And every plot point, every word, every syllable, every letter.
Every syllable.
Perfect. The ink used is made from angel tears.
To recreate
paper-
the book is to recreate Avalon. Okay?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, oh well, that's the way in the book. However, that does give some defense in a few cases. Like, hear me out. I hate it when that's used as a oh wow, that was crappy in the movie, and they say no, it's okay because it was in the book. But it is a defense in sometimes it can't be changed. Like, man, I had an example before recording this, but in this installment of Sean Forgets Something to Bring Up, I forgot what the example is. But
You're revoking
sometimes-
your hosting privileges for
I know, I really am. I'm just kind
We
of
gotta add this to the
torpedoing
Rule
my...
Thirds rule book. We gotta
I'm
add this.
torpedoing my career.
No, we have to add it. Like, no plots. That's one, and then we have to add no Sean hosting privileges when he's being absent-minded. You have
Yeah.
to, like, write that.
Okay, well, anyway,
I'll
my
bring up
point,
an example.
No,
if
my
you want.
point before I forget, seriously,
Okay,
guys,
jeez.
don't test me. I will forget. Is
Fine.
like, if something really terrible happens, and you say, wow, that was just not that did not thematically work, or like that was unearned, and someone says, well, it's in the books, that's a defense because, well, they have to continue on the story. So let's say a character death just is totally unearned and it feels super cheap. Well, they can't really change the fact that they die because the rest of the story, the rest of the movie needs to happen at least somewhat the same. It's like if you're watching Star Wars and you're like, and it's based off a book, let's say, right? So theoretically, just roll with me here. And you're like, Obi-Wan shouldn't have died there. That was so stupid. Like, well, it was in the book, and that's actually good defense because you couldn't put Obi-Wan in the rest of the story. Now, do you have
yeah.
a real example, Larry? Because that one was stupid.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
I recently heard an announcement about the Star Wars Episode 7
Right.
that because they were being made, like, I don't know, maybe my friend was lying. I'm pretty sure my friend wouldn't lie to me like this, but, like, apparently all of the stuff that
The
wasn't
expanding
part
universe
of the...
is completely
it's
non-canonical. Is that what you're trying to say?
non-canon.
Goodness. Oh, my goodness.
It's
Can I go on a
non-canon.
little rant here? I'm
as
so
long,
happy.
As long as you don't forget anything.
I won't.
Go ahead.
I'm
As
so
long as you
happy-
don't forget the fact that all the video games ever made about Star Wars were also non-canonical, which
I
is
know,
kind of
And
sad.
I
I
love
know.
Jedi Academy. Okay, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy is my third favorite video game of all time. Yes, I have these lists. That's why I keep listing them as numbers. I have official lists. I like lists.
We all keep lists.
My third favorite. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. It fits really well in the Star Wars canon. Like it makes sense with all the characters' motivation, all that. It's great. It's expanded. It's wonderful. But I don't really mind that much if it's not. So it's weird because I have one book of the expanded universe like that I actually own, and I've read bits and heard of bits of a ton more. So I'm not basing this off just one book. But this book I have. A story is the apprentice of Luke, one of Luke's apprentices, turns out to be the Emperor's grandfather. What? And the Emperor actually lived. Like, this is canon in the expanded universe.
Yeah, he does come back, doesn't he?
Right, the Emperor lives. He had some cloned bodies. Okay, so this is an example of you're ruining the movies. Episode 6's conclusion, where Vader sacrificed himself to return balance to the Force, the entire point of the entire saga... ruined because you had to have your little paperback book at the back of Hastings that no one read and has a really weirdly drawn cover. Sorry, it just has a weird cover.
All of those covers are weirdly drawn.
Yeah.
But okay, to that though.
Yes,
Even
sorry,
though
didn't mean to
I
branch.
admit that that's a good point, and I personally have not read many of the outside books. I love the games. A lot of the games are great, like Battlefront and like.
Well, Battlefront's always in like an alternate reality.
Dude, I'm gonna go play Battlefront after this podcast.
And like KOTOR, like Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, well, that takes place before, so that's...
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, that stuff you could still count as canonical because it has no effect on...
Guys, let's just do a Star Wars podcast sometime.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, we can nerd out.
Let's move on.
Forever on Star Wars.
Next time big Star Wars news come out, we'll do that. But to that though, to your argument, I still found doing that whole thing where you made them non-canon incredibly lazy. Like, I thought of it as just like, I thought it was kind of not only that, but kind of offensive to the actual people who created the stuff to just immediately disregard all of their work as completely non-canon just because we're adding more episodes.
Well, okay,
Larry. Okay, I'll jump onto that. The thing is, though, with the whole canon thing, none of this stuff actually happened anyway. So it's really weird how, and I say this while like I love the continuity and whatnot. But like when people get really upset about things being non-canonical, even though it upsets me, I realize none of this stuff happened anyway, so it doesn't matter even in the slightest in that regard.
Okay, so I will repeat it with this, Larry.
Okay.
I would say that it doesn't really matter if it does change from the source material, a book adaptation. Doesn't matter if Goblet of Fire changed some things. As long as it's for, the goal of making the better film. Because really that should, at the end of the day, that's what any decision anyone regarding the film makes should lead towards. Any decision they make should be towards making a better film. That's their one responsibility as part of the filmmaking team, right? Is to make it a good movie. Good. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, you can make a good movie out of anything, and honestly...
Okay, so...
there goes my tongue.
Yeah. Oh, good, it's spreading. It's contagious.
Oh, no!
So it starts as not being able to talk. That's one of the side effects, and then it comes into full-on absent-mindedness and failure as a host.
Damn it, Sean! Quit spreading your seed.
Good thing I'm hosting next week. Sorry, go on.
Well, anyway, what I was saying was, let's take that logic. Their premium goal, their major goal here, their one objective, their prime objective, whatever you want to say, is to make a better film. Now, let's say J.J. Abrams and the scriptwriters, they sat down and said, okay, expanded universe, what kind of story can we tell with this? Like, what kind of stories do we have? Let's adapt these. There's some books about Han and Leia's kids. Let's do all this. You know what, guys? This isn't really going to work for us. Like, these adaptations just won't be that good of a movie. I have this idea for an original thing, and here's how this story goes. And everyone's like, oh, man, that's really great. Isn't their job as filmmakers, as the people put in charge of making a new trilogy of the most beloved sci-fi series of all time, suck at Star Trek, the most beloved sci-fi series of all time, isn't it their job to say,
it is.
Sorry, we're trying to make the best film we can. And it's not even best film, it's best trilogy. So honestly, it's a acceptable loss. Okay? I'm not a huge fan of these books. I think they trivialize a lot that happens. But I think it's worth it. And I don't think it's unfair to say, too bad. It sounds harsh, but I think movies. I think the movies are more important.
Yeah,
sorry, I think they are. They're the core.
I understand
it. The quality of the movies is more important. Let's
Yeah,
be
I understand.
real.
I understand the argument, and I respect that, and I kind of agree with it. I do agree if they
Okay.
want to make the best films possible. It just maybe just the way they announced it was just kind of like, sorry guys, everything you thought was canon was not canon. Bye. It was just like it felt kind of.
Okay, here's
It
another
felt
thing.
a little
Let's
quick.
jump. Let's on the opposite spectrum. If they read an expanded universe novel and go, oh my god, this could make a freaking awesome movie, and they do it, and they can't really think of anything better. I mean, that's totally cool too.
Right. So that's the thing about adaptations. That's kind of my final line in adaptations. Keep everything that's good. Like, really,
Good,
the
yeah.
changes that are bad, obviously, like the Desolation of Smaug. I hate the love triangle so much. Like, I just hate it. I want to sit down with Peter Jackson and ask why he added that. The
Well,
love
to be
triangle
fair-
subplot is terrible.
Well,
What's
she's like the
good
only female
to you-
character in that movie. Like, that's why he added him, because
So
everybody else is a male.
Because
I
there's
think
a
that's
female
why he
character,
added him.
she automatically needed a love triangle?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's all right. The love triangle, then, yeah, I don't know about
Right.
that.
So I'm
Well,
saying-
Sean, you do
no, not
realize
the character.
that there
the
may
character is
be
awesome.
no, there may be some people who actually like the love triangle. It's
But
subject-
I
it's
don't
all
think that's
subjective.
something that needed to be added to The Hobbit, a very light kid story. Now, I will always defend The Hobbit. This is actually a really good thing to bring up. The Hobbit is under, like, it's probably the most, like, talked about adaptation right now because it does stray so much from the source material, and it's so high profile. Because it's, of course, it's the same team as Lord of the Rings, and it's making a bajillion dollars at box office. So, with that
Looks
being
up,
said,
yeah, it's a two bajillion.
well, no, okay. Anyway,
We just gotta be accurate. We gotta
you're
give
right.
accurate
That's why you
information
listen to
the
this
press.
podcast, to know how many bajillions of dollars movies have made. And we can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, 2.1 bajillion. Okay, my original point before I forget it is, like, obviously, of course, they're most talked about. It's a good thing to bring up because they do add all these things, and I would argue that it's not necessary. Now, I do appreciate their attempt to make it a bit darker than the book, but not as dark as Lord of the Rings. I think they hit a really nice middle ground thematically and visually in, like, the grittiness of the action stuff. I mean, if you've read the book, it is a kid's book. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It is a kid's book. Like, by its genre, it was written as a kid's book. And then Lord of the Rings was for adults, and I think they've hit a great middle ground between the two. But yeah, my roommate, again, huge book reader. Favorite book is The Hobbit, so he brings up a lot of things regarding the movies. And I always have to say, just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. This podcast is kind of what I want to say to him. Just, here are all the reasons why it doesn't matter.
Can
now,
I
what do you
bring
guys
up
think
a
about The Hobbit?
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna bring. We'll stick
If
with
you
the
got
Hobbit.
something else, go ahead.
Well, I'll just make a point about the Hobbit, and when we're done with the Hobbit, I'll bring up a similar situation with another
Okay.
adaptation. But I really like the Hobbit. Great book. Love Lord of the Rings books. They're a little hard to get through, but
Yes.
you know they're brilliantly written. And when I was watching the Hobbit, I said to myself, "Wow, this is really cool. Like, I love seeing this world to the big screen." That's the most important part of an adaptation to me. I don't care about plot details. I care about worlds I like being brought to life. And that's the reason why books and movies are so different as adaptations. With a book, you need to visualize it for yourself. It's sort of, kind of, in that way, interactive, where you think of the world as it's
Right,
happening.
definitely.
A movie, there's someone behind the camera making it for you. And that's why people get so insecure about it, because they can't control it. But that's really philosophical. I'm not going to get too deep into that. But when I was watching The Hobbit, it was pretty long. And I said to myself, I was watching it, I'm like, did we really have to include that scene?
Yeah, it's
Like, did
definitely
we?
stretched
Like,
out.
I liked it. I liked the scene. I thought it was funny. But did we really have to include it? Couldn't we have made it like an hour and 50 instead of like 2 hours and 30? You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, does it have to be 3 to 2?
Yeah,
Honestly, I'm
like
going to
3.
wait until the end of the third movie, and then I'll decide if it would probably be better. Because I like Desolation quite a bit. I like both movies a lot. And I think Desolation was a tiny bit step up the first, so we'll see if the third is even better.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then yeah, it was worth it, I would say. Of course, book readers will never agree to me saying that.
Never.
But, okay, just for comparison, watch the animated Hobbit. It's really crunched and it rushes through
Yeah.
because it has to get through in, like, what, 100 minutes? I feel like it's really
Seriously.
short. One second,
I
let me
know.
look that up. But yeah, it's one
I
movie,
remember
it's really
watching
short.
that. I remember watching that. That was so annoying to me.
Also, I cannot stand that animation style. It just looks ugly to me.
I'm just sitting here listening.
It's 90 minutes. It is 90 minutes.
Okay, that's not long at all.
You guys done yet?
What?
Oh my god, shut up, Max. We like The Hobbit. I'm actually, to transition to that.
Some of us actually watch the movies before going to their sequels, Maxwell.
Oh! Nailed it.
I wanted to try something new. Anyway.
No, you didn't. You just ran out of time and lied to me.
Can I? Okay. I want to bring up an example, though. I want to bring up another example of something different.
We should let Max talk.
Yeah.
Fine,
all right,
Max,
well,
go ahead.
I'm going to actually detract real quick because, Larry, you said something that actually made me think. And you said you had to visualize it for yourself. And I decided to think of the whole, books do not matter thing. There's a video game series that I love. It's called Ace Attorney. Phoenix Wright, if you heard of him. I love this series to death. And I just thought, if somebody did an American Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, because there's an actual Japanese Ace Attorney movie that follows the first game extremely well, and they changed certain things that I loved about the original game's plot, yeah, I guess that would piss me off a bit. I guess that would, and I have to do my best to look past it, because I'm a filmmaker, film critic, I guess, and I'm supposed to do that. But for somebody else who's not really, who's not really as familiar with the art of film as I am, yeah, it's something where you're like, what the heck? What is this? I want to see Ace Attorney on the big screen. I want to see somebody visualize it while still knowing what things are going on. This is completely just detracting and going off the rails. What the hell is this? I can sort of understand where those guys are coming from. At the same time, though, it's really easy to poke holes in that argument.
Yeah.
If you were gonna complain about narrative not being the same, okay, that's very flawed, but if they went with a new narrative, it's okay if you don't like that narrative as its own thing.
Yeah, I think that sinks it in when the narrative is bad on its own 2 feet. That's when it's
Jackson.
Oh man.
Yeah, like with Percy Jackson, one of the biggest changes is actually one that I don't think works. And I want to specifically mention it. It's not really that big of a deal because it's not a spoiler or anything. In the book, it's really just a journey to find somebody. That's really the book. The movie doesn't really mention the person. It really just mentions it changes what they're finding.
Yeah, that was actually a problem.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was like, "Ugh, that's not the book, God," and then I changed my opinion.
Nice Napoleon Dynamite impression.
Yeah, thank you.
Gosh,
I tried. Gosh, I tried. But then when I rewatched it, I thought to myself, "Wait, I still don't like that. Do I? Do I still have my book meaning?" Like, no, that's actually a really flimsy, really stupid way to change the plot.
Yeah, see, that's a bad change. That's something I think people book people. If you're listening to this and you're upset, realize that we don't want movie people to do whatever they want. Books have really good things. Don't misunderstand here.
Exactly.
So yeah, the Percy Jackson thing, I agree, because it was all about finding his mother. Yes.
It was partially about the book was about finding his mother and meeting Zeus to return the bolt.
And then it was all about finding those teleporting orbs, right, in the movie.
Yeah, the pearls.
Yeah, that thematically it ruins. It just kind of weakens it instantly. So yeah, that was a bad decision.
And I also want to bring up another decision. You hate the fact that The Hobbit has a love triangle.
Yes.
I'm literally holding the book right now. It is my dearly beloved Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love the book to death. It is one of my favorite books of all time. In the movie, there's a romance subplot between two characters that don't have a romance subplot in the book. In fact, the book doesn't even mention the slightest bit of it.
But does it work with the characters in the film?
But here's the thing, though. I thought to myself, well, this is stupid. It wasn't in the book. But then I slapped myself, and I actually looked at it cinematically, and it still doesn't work.
Okay.
Because the actors don't have that much good chemistry. Yeah, so that's why it doesn't work.
That's fine. We should definitely let's just set that as a ground rule. If book people, if you're able to step back, look at it, and decide as objectively as possible. Well, okay, not objectively, but from your point of view, which works better, and you still have a problem with it, then I don't have a problem with that. That's just your opinion on it. How can I can't argue philosophically on that. We can argue about quality all day. I love doing that. That's the whole point of Rule of Thirds, really, is arguing quality of films and narrative stuff. But if you're saying it's bad just because it's different or just because it's not, just because it's been changed, then I don't take that opinion seriously. So, my friend who read The Hobbit doesn't hate the love triangle because it wasn't in the book. He agrees with me. It's just weak and unnecessary in the film. Not unnecessary as in it wasn't in the book. Just unnecessary. Just get rid of it. It's already a long movie, and it's kind of annoying that the one female character has to be in a love triangle. Come on, guys. It's annoying.
Yeah. But I think that's really the main idea here. A movie's choices need to work narratively and cinematically.
Yeah. I'm glad this worked out. That was the point I was going to try to build to. You don't have to pay attention to the book at all. But you know what? You have an entire book to base off. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
So look at it. What do you like? What do you not like? Change it. If it's better, put it in your movie. It doesn't matter. You have no obligation to the book. It is helping you. Think of it that way. If you're writing an adaptation, pick what you like, change what you don't, make sure it works as a film. I think that's the message we all want to kind of wrap up with, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that statement, Max?
Yeah.
There's no obligation.
I mean, and you know what? If you find enough good themes in the book while you're trying to adapt it, and you realize, you know what, I can actually kind of make an original story out of this, go for it.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
You don't have to stick to that. I know we are in the franchise age of film, but I mean, I think it's best to just like start your own thing and you know, put your own ideas in there because, you know, it's your story, buddy.
Cough, cough, Marvel and DC, cough, cough. Like,
yeah,
you do that all the time.
You bring up the franchise thing, that's good, because I think the franchise thing is kind of hurting adaptations, because guess why The Hunger Games did so amazingly well at box office? Because the books had it has a huge following. That's why it was made, because they know that the book people would go to it. What if it was totally different?
I love how we're degrading it to like book people, and movie people.
He's a book reader.
Yo, book people. Yo, book people.
Okay, but seriously, guys, what would happen if... guys, what would happen if The Hunger Games, the first movie, was nothing like the book? Kind of like Blade Runner, where it just does it, it did something.
Fans would probably be pissed.
Okay.
Fans would be pissed off.
And would they go to a sequel?
It's hard to say.
No, it's not hard to say. The people that are complaining about the tiniest things, they're not gonna go if it's so radically different.
How would they know?
What do you mean? How would they know?
Okay, if audiences see a Hunger Games trailer and a bunch of people go to it in the opening weekend and it makes tons of money, they already made tons of money.
I'm talking about the sequel. Who would go to Catching Fire if the Hunger Games was nothing like the book?
Okay, well, not many at all.
So Catching Fire wouldn't be made. So that's the problem. Franchising is making it really hard. Like, comic books is different. Marvel, DC, they're lucky enough that there are so many freaking versions of comic book storylines anyway. They can do whatever they want, and to a point, people aren't upset. Really, all they have to worry about is character. Like, don't mess up characters that are beloved by many.
Yeah, the closest
and that's
they've
fair,
gotten.
I get that.
Yeah, the closest they've gotten to fanboy stuff. The closest they've gotten to fanboy stuff is with the Mandarin. And that was when they changed like the entire theme of the character.
Yeah, that was a character.
And it worked because he wasn't racist like the original Mandarin.
Some people thought it worked, some didn't. We can talk about this later.
We will, actually.
Yeah.
Remember, we've got Whitley coming on in a little bit. I'll talk to him. We'll get him on. He's going to... Oh, announcement time. I guess we haven't mentioned it yet. A G1 over on Screw Attack. We've talked to quite a bit on Twitter, one of the followers of the site. Whitley, we're going to talk about the Mandarin thing. I think it's just going to be me and him. Is that what we decided?
Well, me and Max will be...
It's time for Death Battle!
I think 4 people... Anyway, we're going to talk about the Mandarin twist, but anyway, that's not the point. So you bring up franchising, and yeah, comic books don't have to worry about it, but book things definitely have to worry about it. Like, I don't think the Maze Runner is going to be very good, and I think they're going to have to change quite a bit. I was talking to my friend, and he says they're probably going to have to change quite a bit. So I don't think the Maze Runner is going to get a sequel. The Giver probably isn't going to get a sequel.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. The Giver, you got to remember, the book does not matter, Larry. The book
I'm not saying... Oh my god. Do I have to bring this up again, Max? They are changing Okay, to be fair, there was news that was announced that said the movie does have moments in color and black and white.
Sweet.
But that's just good. But here's the thing. They are literally changing a thematic element that will ruin the entire... It's like with the Percy Jackson thing. They're changing an element of the book that is huge to the actual theme of the book.
So yeah, that's a bad change, and we've agreed those are acceptable. It's fine to not like a change because of its own merits. That is fine. We can't argue with that. philosophically. Like, we cannot objectively say that's wrong, but we can argue to say that you should not hold the movie accountable to the books. Like, that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to philosophically prove
if
that
The
it
Giver,
isn't
if in The Giver they kind of like just disregard the fact, if they replace like the whole color with something else, like with a different element.
What if they do 3D?
Ooh, that could work.
I just blew my own
the
mind.
world into 3D.
See?
Whoa.
I just blew my own mind.
If that was the thing, if they replaced the main character figuring out what color is with some other thing, sure, fine.
That would actually be
whatever.
really fascinating.
Yeah,
But that's
that'd
the
be
problem
fine.
if you go to a 2D screening.
Yeah,
It
well,
won't have the same effect. So anyway, franchising is kind of ruining it just because you have to keep the fans coming, at least to a
Right.
point. But comic books are free from that. Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's why it's so great when we see original stuff, because
Yeah.
nobody's going to
And
care.
I think it's also why we get all excited when we see something that like is from the source, but it's not like exactly from the source. Like I remember people freaking out when the Green Goblin in the original Spider-Man movie died when he accidentally killed himself with his glider, because that's how he died in the issue following the death of a certain very famous
Yeah.
Spider-Man character.
Spoilers.
That I will not name.
Let's,
I will not name.
Cough.
But yeah, that was like people loved that because even though it wasn't in the same context, it was still a nice nod to the comics. I like nods and Easter eggs and stuff like that. Now, like you don't have to like follow the books. I mean, if Marvel tried to follow the universe of its comic book universe, we would all be as confused as they would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
pretty much.
we keep dang it, keep going back to superheroes. I swear to God.
No, I mean that goes back to the whole point about having things visualized.
Yeah.
People like to see events in books that they really like put on the big screen. And that's
Okay,
a normal thing.
good. Can I springboard from that into our little final point?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about franchising, how you have to keep it close enough for the fans, and now you're talking about people will want it visualized. I'm going to ask the question, what's the point of adapting a book to screen? Okay, obvious answer, money. I'm talking artistically.
Money.
What's the point?
Because you may see something in that book that other people don't, and you want to convey that
So that's
into a movie.
Yeah, more than what's the point? Who is it for? I think that's actually the better question. Who is it for? Artistically. Well, it doesn't even matter if it's artistically
Anybody.
or money. Right, okay. So, if it's for anyone, yeah, you got the two things. Is it for the fans of the book? Is it for people who haven't read the book? Why would you make it for the fans? They already have it. They've already read it. And what's great is that the human mind can always picture things better. The way you picture a book is going to be perfect. The way you picture a character is going to be perfect. A setting, it's all going to be perfect for you. Because it's you. If you talk about main character
selfish
walks
bastard.
into... if you read in a page, character A walks into a grand castle, and in your head you picture like the most freaking awesome castle ever, that it's never going to get any better. Right? Like, that's going to feel right to you. So, of course, when you sit down to the movie, you're like, that's not the castle. That ain't my castle. And, of course, it's
That
not.
is not my
so,
castle.
why would you make it for the fans? You're not. It shouldn't be. You should not be making adaptations for the fans. That's just repetitive. And also, that raises the question, why would fans want it to be exact? Like, I get you want to see it visualized, but don't you want to see some changes?
Yeah.
No, that's the thing, though. They don't.
Don't
They
you
like
want to
their
see
why
Hunger
not?
Games Catching Fire actually have a conclusion? Sorry.
Max has a conclusion. Shut up. So, I say you have to make it for everyone. And honestly, book readers, don't be selfish. Guess what?
Bookers.
Bookers.
Guess what?
Book people.
The Hobbit made over $1 billion. The second Hobbit made over 900 million. Your story that you love so much, people are seeing that. People are loving that. People love those movies just as much as you love the books. Especially the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's the best example. The books have such a huge following. It's adored by millions. Most popular fantasy series of all time. But guess what? So are the movies. So many people have such strong connections with those films. Why are you trying to make that worse? Why are you trying to do that? It was made for them.
It's
Why
your
aren't you
fault.
wanting this spread?
You're responsible. Sorry.
No, why aren't you wanting this spread? You have your favorite book of all time. Now these people get to have their favorite movie of all time. How is this a bad thing? Just because you don't get a perfect replication of what you pictured in your head, so?
Well, see, the thing about the Lord of the Rings, though, the Lord of the Rings did a good job of kind of taking what needed to be taken from the books and placing
Well, sure,
it
that's
into the
agreed on
movie.
that's general consensus, but I mean, like any adaptation.
Yeah.
Why?
Noah.
Seriously, do you guys get what I'm trying to say? Like, why would you be so
I get what you're
upset?
trying to say, Sean. Yeah, I mean, listen, like, for example, going back to Harry Potter, when I visualized the Battle of Hogwarts the first time I read it, the Battle of Hogwarts being the last big event in the Harry Potter canon, like, seeing it on the big screen, yeah, it didn't live up to what exactly I had, but it was still awesome just to see it happen, especially with characters that I had grown up watching grow up on screen. So that was fine. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. Like, it wasn't up to my imagination, but I still really enjoyed it because I was open to that. I wasn't like asking for it to be, exactly what I envisioned, because maybe my vision was skewed. I mean, let's be real.
See, this is why I think my roommate, who's read all the Game of Thrones books, of course, why I think he's approaching the show so well and so healthily, if that's a word.
Healthily.
He is arguably more excited for each episode than me and my other roommate, who haven't read the books. And it's because he's so excited for us to see it. He's so excited for us to experience what he has. He's so excited to share that and to talk about it with us. Like, that's the healthy outcome. So what if Aragorn doesn't do that in the Two Towers? It doesn't matter. You get to talk about the Two Towers with tens of millions of people that you couldn't before. Right? Isn't this a good thing?
To an extent, yes.
I think we've solidified our point. Now, I would like to end this. I'd like to end this just by saying, across from me, I just bought a book called Console Wars. It's not a fictional book. It was I actually did a newsreel on it, and it's
yes, you did.
Yeah, it's gonna be adapted into a film from Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who are responsible for a lot of comic movies that you really enjoy. One of which being Superbad, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm gonna hope that whatever they do with even though this will present factual information, I will hope that the book doesn't matter and the historical accuracy is put to the side in order to bring the best movie possible. And that's how you bookend 2 episodes.
That's how you bookend. Book.
Yeah, except
Book.
the person who should wrap up the episode should be the host. On that note, I was happy because I ended with a Game of Thrones speech. So I'm happy. By the way, hashtag free Tyrion. So thank you for joining us. This has been CinemaTalk. Are we wrapping up, guys? I feel like we're wrapping up.
Yeah, we're wrapping
This
up.
has been CinemaTalk. Just wanted to confirm that this, in fact, has been CinemaTalk. It has. This has been CinemaTalk, official podcast of RuleThirds.com. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sorry I was a bit scattered at times, and hopefully that only makes you appreciate how human I am, and how raw and unedited this podcast is. We show you the reality. We're not sugarcoating it like those posers.
It's
some
uncut.
site you don't like.
You know what we like to say? It's uncut and uncensored right here.
Yeah, uncensored isn't. I don't think I've ever sworn on this podcast. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Tune in next week for some topic we haven't come up with. Sorry, we usually do that.
I have a pretty good idea of what we'll be talking about next.
Okay, well, but definitely stay tuned for my preview. But most importantly, Godzilla review will go up a week from when we're recording this next Saturday, and it is a new format. It is a new format. It is not like our other reviews. It's a new format we're trying out.
It's a new format you've never seen before, and we are pumped
very exciting.
to make sure that it works.
Yes, hopefully it works, because we haven't
and then,
even
just
done a
down
test
the line, something else.
Yes, something else from Max.
Anyway,
now I'm really excited to share with everybody.
Yes, I read the script, and I'm actually excited for it, too. So,
me too. It's gonna be good.
On that nice positive note, let's end this. My name is Sean. Okay, well, now you're talking over my outro. God, Max, you're talking over my outro. Excuse me. Silence. My name.
What'd you say, Sean?
Oh, I hate you. Okay, but seriously, my name's Sean.
My name's Larry.
My name. Wait. What is my name?
I honestly try to forget.
I
repress you, Max. Oh, there it is, Max.
Max. My name
back.
is Max. That's it.
Oh, there it is.
And this has been CinemaTalk, kind of a more random and weird one than usual. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Anyway, that's our names. We're going to sign off now.
That is our names.
It's spiraling out of control. Goodbye.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.